Hello, this is Gene. I want to talk a little bit more about what's going on. I just can't really let this go in a lot of ways, and a lot of reasons why. I wish I could just let it go and say it's not that big of a deal. What's going on in the NFL and how it reflects on our culture um, overall. Um, about a year ago, when I started to become more and more awake about the alt-right or supporting the alt-right ideology, I guess. Again, I still don't think I'm 100% there. I think there's a way that right people can be together. I've talked about many times before on my channel about Americanism. I still believe in that, but I'm also I understanding that it may sound white supremacist to say it, but white people created Western civilization, and they created this country. You can talk about us conquering the Indians, and you could talk about how bad that could have been. But the truth is we did what we did. We made a great country, and I still believe that it's us that needs to make sure it stays that way. Um, there's a couple issues that I've been thinking about, and some people that have been actually talking online about this or been on shows about stuff. And when people start talking, it comes out that their racism that they have, especially if you're a minority. But I think that it's all based on the simple fact that no minority wants to be in a minority. They just don't. They look at the the people who are in charge as the privileged class. And I think what the left has basically destroyed this country by taking this somewhat thought process and bastardized it to Marxism and feminism and every type of ism that's out there that says, well, if the white person, if they're in charge, and even if they're not, they still would think, even if they were no longer in charge, that they would still say that men of color, or excuse me, people that are white would still have privilege because of their skin. But the people on the left is like, there's something to the whole thing about white privilege, because it seems like, it's going to help out if you have more people than somewhere else. But they've got so lost into it that what they've done is taken away agency from people of color that had such a great experience in this country the last 40 or 50 years that they could have made a great situation for themselves. Now, nobody here on this channel and people I know would never say that, especially a African American man doesn't have it a little bit harder than maybe the normal white person. I'm not going to say that. I think that it's marginal. I really do. I think that it's very hard if you look into the middle areas of our country to see the poverty that goes in the white community. It's devastating as it is in the black community. Now, there's different reasons why that's happened in the white community compared to the black community, and we've talked about it on this channel, what those things are. I don't want to go into it as far it is. I mean, obviously, in the Rust Belt, in the middle country, it's no factories, no jobs, no traditional values. In the black community, no jobs, no fathers in the home. That's universal really for both races, but it's so endemic in the black community that it's absolutely killing them, and it's killing all of us by extension. Now, what the left tried to do after the civil rights movement, that they thought by putting money into it, not necessarily be virtuous to say I'm white, I have to help you out because you're black, but they really thought they were doing something about it. And people like me get really upset now when people are saying that white people need to do more. And maybe we need to do more. Maybe we should also inform them that they need to do well. They need to do more in their own community. And several times I've been called certain things based on my views. I'm somebody I voted for Democrats all my life. All my friends were people of color. And it's, people are not going to believe me. So I'm just going to I'm going to show you a couple of videos or photos of me when I was serving in the military. I don't know if these guys would really want me to put their video out. I'm not going to tell you what their names are. And I'm not really sure that some of them are still alive. Most people in here I know still. I don't know if there's one or two. I'm not sure that they're still alive. But these are the people I hung out. The first video or first picture I'm going to show you is when I was in my 20s, and I was stationed in Washington State. And all these guys I had some sort of relationships for. The black girl that's in there is, I talked about one of my videos in the past, that she was the one that um, almost tried me to break up for my white girlfriend. I'm not blaming her. I'm just saying that she was attracted to me, and she's a very nice looking girl. And the other guy that's a taller guy in the picture is the guy that I was talking about when we were talking about apples, and I got in trouble by saying that. This is in the 1980s, and I could have got really in trouble, but he basically helped me out with that. We were just talking to each other, you know, how guys talk. And some of the people in there one was a mentor, and one was my good friend, the guy with the red hair. So I want to show you this, and then I'll show you in later in my life that I always worked in a multicultural workplace. The Air Force was like that, especially the areas that I was at. We had a lot of women working with us. We had a lot of people of color working with us. And I understood a little bit more where they're coming from. But all these people were and of course, by saying this, some people will say that this is sound racist, but they were all well-spoken. But they knew that they came from a group of people, and they would talk about the things that happened in their life. But guess what? Almost every one of them had fathers in their homes, and all of them had their parents still together. And these are something that people in the black community will not talk about it when they go on shows and talk about, you know, there's still oppression in this country, and they think white people need to do more. And I'm thinking we spend trillions of dollars in the black community, and it hasn't helped. And we know why. Now, you can say it's our fault for bringing that legislation in and voting for it, but I don't think that deep down inside that we thought that the result would be what happened. I just don't think that was the way it was going to be. I'm not against for people protesting. It's just a time and a place. And I would tell you that most of the people in these videos that I know would not allow it, would not think that's the right thing to do, because it's not the right thing. You have time to talk about it. We'll talk about it after that. So let me show you this real quick, and I'll show you another one. Okay, that's Randy right there. I used to walk with him. He was almost a competitive walker. He almost made the Olympic team. That's me right there. This is a Puerto Rican girl, very nice girl, nice looking girl too. Everybody loved her. The black girl right there, she was into me for a while, and that's Raymond, and him and I used to play basketball all the time. And Mark right here, probably the greatest athlete I ever knew in my life. I mean, fastest dude I ever knew. And this is Mike Appleby, who was really my mentor, and really helped me become more of a man at that time. I was just a normal, I don't know, just, you know, I was fairly new at that time. I'd been overseas, and that was right after the bomb went off in Rhine Mine, and I came back home to San Antonio. Well, that wasn't my home, but I went there, and then I retrained to become space systems, and that was my first duty station, and that's where I met the girl that had my first baby and all that good stuff. So that was a good time for me. I was very not into myself that much. I finally started to mature a lot, and women started to actually looking at me. So I was there, moved on, and everywhere I went, there was this. I was always the liberal in the crowd. I was, and several times I have a pack. I probably should bring it in, and maybe another video I will. That they said count on our votes, because I was somebody that I was going to run for political office when I got off the military, and I would have done it as a Democrat. But the Democrats that we have now are not part of that. They have lost their way. They think that by using people of color, because they know at some point they're going to be the majority in this country, still they're going to try to be in power, and the white liberals are going to still try to be in power, and they're going to put more and more people on their plantation, saying everybody is against them, that you're all oppressed, you're all part of victims. And when I talk about what the left, at first we thought the right thing to do was to give money to be, to help single mothers and all that stuff. But I don't believe anybody in the left really thought that the epidemic would happen, even in the white and the black community, with single mothers. But what happened is the people, they allowed parts of the left to take over the Democratic Party, And they used those terms like that, and used words like white privilege and oppression and a victimhood, and used that as for the lawmakers to change the rules and laws in this country. And people like in the feminist movement, they talk about, they're all about women's rights. They're not. They're about saying the white man is the oppressor and everybody else is victims. And it took me a long time to understand that, because for years, I mean, seriously, nobody looking at my video now would ever believe this, but I was at MSNBC. I watched it every night. I watched Keith Olbermann, Rachel Maddow, Dan Abrams, Chris Masties, all these guys. They're right. They're absolutely right. White people need to do better. Now, my brain didn't really look at that way. But I thought that, yeah, we're in a power. I mean, we should do more. We should have free health care. We should go into inner cities and build them houses and all this stuff. And part of me still wants to do that. There's something that's ingrained into me, whether it's white guilt or not, but I think it's part of being European that's we want to do. We want to help people out. But later in my life, this is probably like 15, 18 years later, I was in Vandenberg before we moved to Florida. If I can find the video. Oh, here it is. Okay, that's me in the front. And this guy right here, he's a colonel right now, 6'8", can't play basketball. So that stereotype. Of course, this guy over here, he was really good at basketball. And these are guys, were great guys. And the captain in the back, I think he was a Mormon, nice guy. But that was in Vandenberg. That was my second to last studiation. Again, all my life, I grew up in East St. Louis, which is very predominantly black. And then I moved to South St. Petersburg, that was predominantly black. There was never this thing that I ever worried about being vilified by the fact that I was white. We were all there together, and almost everybody had fathers. There's another guy on here that's, I don't want to put his name out there because he's got his son is in the United States Military Academy at West Point. My best friend when I grew up, and I didn't even realize he was Hispanic. There was none of that was going on. We were both we were lower income. We were not poor, but we're just above poor. And he went on, and he was the Corps commander in the ROTC detachment. I was like a first sergeant, but his motivation was much more than mine. So he went on to Embry-Riddle, and he became a pilot, and he's still piloting now. His sons were athletes in college and high school. One of them is a running back at West Point, and his other sons are all athletic like he was. But there was never this, he looked at me because I was white, or I looked at him because his skin was a little bit darker than mine. We faced the same issues. I mean, he had problems dealing with girls, and I had problems dealing with girls, and trying to be friends during that time. And today I haven't seen him forever, but he always he looks at me as his best friend, and I just can't. But he was more conservative than me. I mean, he was the guy that was talking about Trump before I actually got into it, and I started trusting his viewpoint on it, and I just went in there and started looking at it, and I'm like, wow, I kind of like what Trump is talking about. But anyway, the point I'm just trying to say is the left has destroyed the country, and they allowed fringe ideologies like feminism to run over, because one of our biggest problems as white people is that if something is going wrong, or if women march or something like that, all of a sudden we want to fix it. Because deep down inside, we don't want to hear the nagging for the rest of our lives. And I can tell you that's why the suffrage movement actually changed. They marched for a little while, and the guys were like, fuck, I don't want to hear this anymore. And there are a lot of people on the alt-right would talk about the worst thing that happened to the United States is when the women got the vote, because it basically ushered in the welfare state. And people say that about civil rights. Now, this is like having that conversation who's a conservative and talks about It's always the Constitution, always the Constitution, also Constitution. And the people on the left saying, well, you're just saying that because you're racist. 90% of the times that Republicans say that are not doing because of they're racist. They're doing it because they don't think the government should be involved with certain areas, like when it comes to transgenders and all that stuff. Anyway, so I don't know what the entire point of this entire video was, but I was walking today and I was talking about how the left has lost its country and how I've turned my back on the left, and there are millions of us like that, because after the election and even today, Clinton is still blaming white people and women especially, but she doesn't realize that a lot of millions of people voted for Barack Obama, and we voted for Obama. And the people on the left or the right, excuse me, used to say that it was just our white guilt coming out. They didn't say it like that out front, but that's what they did. And they're like, "Oh, you just did it because he was black." No, I read his book. He sounded more like Reagan than Kennedy, not JFK, like Ted Kennedy. And I was like, between him and McCain, I looked at McCain as somebody that was hypocritical on his stance. So I went for Obama. And against Romney, I thought it was pretty easy. But even then, I sent out videos to the president saying that they were going to lose. Now, he didn't lose his. I said, but the Democrats was going to lose the House, or White House, and I was right. And I was right. I picked Trump before the election. Only missed one state. So just watching everybody going crazy on that night talking about, I can't believe this happened. Well, the whole night I thought we were going to win. So it's just getting back to the NFL. And I'm seeing a lot of people come out finally saying why it is so important to stand for the flag and what it really means. And you can't just have these like black lawyers come on, or ACL lawyers come on TV saying, oh, that they're all oppressed and they're not against the flag, they're not against the country. That's not what they're trying to do. And just virtual signaling for black people. I know, like athletes, I just want them to come out and tell me what they want. And if I think that that's something that we can talk about, that's fine. But let's have the other discussion. Let's talk about fathers in the black community. Let's talk about black crime. If we have that and something comes out of that, you're going to have hundreds of millions of white people that are going to be on your side. You really are. We're kind of sick and tired of saying that you're all oppressed, when we know that if you have motivation and you have some sort of talent in anything, this country is going to give you everything. So when I hear people like Antifa or guys who want to be communists or something like that, there's a guy that's in the military academy right now, and I'm not sure that he's not where my friend's kid's at. Now that he's out there, I wonder how that's going to work. But he's having little communist shit on his T-shirts, thinking that's the right way to go. Capitalism, whatever you want to say about it, is the greatest thing of all time. It's helped more and more people get out of poverty than any other type of ideology. And yeah, some people are going to make a lot of money out of it, and some people are going to take that money and use it for wrongdoing. But people that think that communism is the better place, no, human nature is going to say that people are going to still try to be at the top of that taking money, and the rest of you is going to be at the bottom. You're going to be in a caste system, and you're going to be just the workers. Capitalism can make anybody a millionaire if you have the right idea and you have the motivation to get there, or at least get you to an area where you're in the middle income and you can have a good life. This country is so great for that, and it really gets old when people are saying it's not a good place. We've had problems. Every country has had the same type of problems, especially when you're talking about the majority of the country being somebody and a minority of the people being somewhere else. There's that jealousy that will always be there. The reason that we got to get past that, and we never really will, because you look at people from a different group than you are a little bit differently. That's nature. I'm sorry, that's just what it is. Now, you can get people on the left are so out there that says that everybody looks like a coffee color person, that will be fine. We'll find something else that will actually look different at each other. We just will. But when white people have been trying for a long time, people on the left have been trying for a long time, even people on the right have been trying for a long time, and you sit there and you try to invade the one area that they have, that they can just have some entertainment and just relax, and you just use it about the flag, and then you have assholes from that McCoy sitting there just stretching during the anthem. Jesus, if I'd have been there, I'd be on that field and I would have knocked his ass out. And that's exactly what I would have done. Now, of course, he would have kicked the shit out of me, but I would have tried to do that, because that is just so, That's just a mockery of what it is. You can say that I'm paranoid about it, or you can say that that's not what they're trying to do. He's making a mockery of it, and by extension, they're all making a mockery of what that's about. And then you got assholes like Jesse Williams talking about that we didn't have the national anthem until before 2009, saying this is about a recruiting call for people to have take wars overseas. Look, I'm not a big fan of wars. I never liked it when I went. I didn't like the Iraq War. I mean, I didn't like the Vietnam War. All that I didn't. But this country allows you to voice that that dissent, and you can have that with this. But there are better ways to do it, and hopefully they'll get better with this. I'm done with the NFL. A guy that's watched the NFL my entire life. I'm done with it. There are other things I can watch, and if this thing goes down and starts invading the college, I'll lose that. And if it's high school, I'll lose that out too. I'm not going to sit there and tell me that somebody like that, who's had a great life, that's playing a kid's game, to tell me that what I believe, what the anthem says for. There's nothing in that national anthem that says anything about slavery is good. There's nothing like that. It's a unifying song that puts us all together. And we're supposed to stand up there to recognize we're all part of this great nation of the United States. And if you don't have the 2 minutes to sit there and do this, then really I don't want you here, and I'm not going to root for you, and I'm not going to support you. Thank you for watching this video. Please share this and like it, and let's get our message out there. It doesn't have to be just because you're alt-right or you support the alt-right. There are right things to do, and these guys need to understand what the right thing is to do. You want to protest? You can do that. There's a place and time for it. We'll talk to you later. Bye.